3 stages of your AI journey to an intelligent workplace. Now, your business cannot just jump into using AI as of day one. There are basically 4 different categories that we put different businesses in depending on the level of readiness they are for AI. The first stage is what I refer to as the data depression. This is where data is all over the place, it's not properly controlled, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done before you can start thinking about AI and the intelligent workplace. The second stage is cloud adoption. Now, you don't necessarily need everything to be in the cloud. However, you should have the basics, your documents, things like that inside of Microsoft 365 and Azure to make it much easier for these tools that we're going to be discussing to be able to access your data. The third stage is the process automation. So this is looking to work smarter rather than harder, and we're going to look at a few different examples of this as well. Then finally, you're at the stage that you're ready for AI. And this is where we refer to this as the intelligent workplace. Once you have got all the foundations in place, you can then weave AI into every fabric of your business. So the first stage is this data depression. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be very familiar with this stage. This is where you are struggling to find where documents live, and constantly finding your employees are struggling to find core documents and information like policies, procedures, marketing materials, templates, and things like that. And it's just becoming a struggle and really depressing part of the job is actually trying to find the data and the documents that you need to do your job. Also, data is stored everywhere. So it could be that some of it is already in Microsoft 365. Some of it might be in SharePoint, but or in different teams. It could be that it's on a file server or NAS. It could be that you're using third-party applications. It could just be that you're reliant on documents being sent around in emails and you're trying to find the document from the last email someone sent you. But this basically is a sign that you need some structure in place. You possibly might even have paper-based processes. A lot of the organizations that we deal with still have some level of paper-based processes, whether it's signing a form to show that you've read a policy, whether it's a accident logbook. There's loads of different examples where paper processes are still taking place. And if you're on the journey to have AI help you make better data-driven insights, you need to ensure that you have all of the data digitalized in a place that's easy to access. Messy spreadsheets. It's very common that there are loads of different Excel spreadsheets saved all over the place with loads of data here and there, and the actual data isn't properly structured into databases, properly processed to allow you to get the insights of your business to be easily extracted. Perhaps you've got legacy systems, old, clunky, headache-inducing systems which are old and need to be replaced. And again, maybe the data isn't easily accessible from this, or even the third party won't allow you to extract this data. This could also be very costly third-party applications. A lot of the organizations that we deal with are paying very silly license fees on an annual basis for systems which they could potentially have built themselves inside of Microsoft 365 and Azure to replace the need for those costly third-party applications. So these are all the things which I class as the data depression stage. You might feel like a lot of this currently applies to you, or you might feel that you're further along this journey. The next stage, say for example, if you were to move from being in the data depression phase into a more cloud-first adoption approach, would include the following. So being able to take a cloud-first approach. Now, as I say, it doesn't mean that AI can't be used with on-premise data. However, for some of the quick win elements of AI that we discuss, things like Copilot, it will rely on your documents being put into SharePoint and Teams and OneDrive for it to be easily accessible. as I say, on-premise data can still be made accessible for certain parts of AI, but realistically, you should be thinking about, are you properly using the Microsoft 365 licenses that you currently have, and is everything properly structured? This might mean a migration to the cloud. Now, this could be from on-premise, this could be from third-party areas. We've even helped people move from some of the Google and sort of G Cloud areas into the actual Microsoft 365 to ensure that you can make the full use out of some of the more quick win elements of AI, like Copilot, like SharePoint agents. Also, making sure you've got proper document structures. One of the things we often analyze for our customers is understanding how they currently structure their documents. Now, as I say, AI, basically think of it as almost like a virtual person. So essentially, you want to make sure your document structuring is still in some way accessible so that AI can understand it properly, whether it's with folder structures around projects or clients, customers, or whatever it may be. Having proper structures and knowing where to store certain documents, as in collaborational documents can be in Teams. SharePoint is really good for a kind of knowledge base and storing those kind of documents which fall under this single source of truth. So things like forms, policies, procedures, things that people want to easily be able to access. And then OneDrive is for your own personal document storage space. I say Microsoft Teams is for collaboration, so making sure that you have this properly set up so that your project teams and people can interact and collaborate around the work that they're currently doing. And again, AI can be applied over the top of this once it's properly in place to help facilitate that collaboration. Making sure you have proper security in place. Now, a lot of people view AI as a giant security risk. Now, AI in itself is not the security risk. However, AI will expose very quickly where there are any weaknesses in your security. So let's take, for example, with Copilot. Copilot only has access to what the end user themselves has access to. However, if they have access to something that they maybe didn't realize they had access to because it was buried in a folder structure somewhere. So let's say, for example, if there was everybody's salary was in an Excel spreadsheet and it was stored in a folder in the HR area that nobody's ever gone and looked for, however, technically they have access to. If an employee was to use Copilot and ask, what is the salary of our CEO, potentially that could go and find that in that Excel spreadsheet and surface that information to them. Now, they would never have known to go and look for that themselves inside of HR's folder. However, Copilot doesn't see it like that. It will go and retrieve every bit of information that it possibly can for that user within the confines of what they have access to. So making sure you have security properly in place and your Microsoft 365 environment is security hardened with things like multi-factor authentication, sensitivity labels to make sure that even if documents are downloaded and taken away from Microsoft 365, they're still encrypted, and even things like conditional access policies to maybe restrict access to only the countries that you operate within. Now, there's loads more in that security bracket, but essentially what I'm trying to stress here is that at this stage of the cloud adoption, you want to make sure that everything is properly secure and ready for AI, because, as I say, AI will only accelerate any issues that you might have as part of your security foundations. You want to be thinking about training. Now, training applies technically at all of these different phases, but at this stage, we want to make sure we've got user, champion, and IT based training in place. So end users know how to use these Microsoft 365 products. Champions know how to support the end users with these products. And then we have the IT departments, which are aware of how to administrate all of these different features and settings which are put in place. So that is our cloud adoption level. The next would be process automation. So once you have everything in place and you've adopted the products which come out of the box, so SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive, and some of the other cool products which are in Microsoft 365, maybe Planner, To Do, Stream for video storage, all these different products you want to ensure you're fully adopting, getting the full value from your Microsoft 365 licenses. Then we're going to move into process automation. So this is using some of the tools to allow us to build out things like mobile apps to replace some of those paper-based processes that we described earlier. So if you're still operating with pieces of paper floating around the office or the warehouse or whatever type of business that you run, then you want to be looking at potentially using things like Power Apps instead of spreadsheets or pieces of paper to ensure that you're properly collecting information. So let's say, for example, you have a process where someone's filling out pieces of paper and they're forever missing certain boxes of information, which means further down the line in the process, people are getting frustrated, angry, and upset because they don't have the information that they need at that stage and they're having to push back a stage. Power Apps ensures that you have the right user interface to capture the right information at the right time. The next thing is looking at automating processes. So inside of Microsoft 365, we have Power Automate. Now, this allows us to create workflows for things like notifications, reminders, approval processes, or just generally automating something that was taking a lot of time to manually do. So maybe it's generating quotes or proposals and sending these as documents attached in emails to your customers. Whatever it may be, you can use Power Automate to make your working life a lot quicker, easier, and more efficient. We can consider Power Pages. So as part of the Power Platform, we've talked about Power Apps for building mobile applications for our employees. We've talked about Power Automate for creating those automated workflows. And Power Pages essentially is the ability to create websites which people can go to and log in using credentials that you've either provided to them, or they could authenticate with things like their Facebook account, Google accounts, all sorts of different ways they could authenticate to your website. And then basically you're then collaborating and integrating that external party into your data. So it could be, for example, you have an application processing portal where somebody logs in, they can submit an application, they can track where their application is up to with different statuses, and you can interact with that application as well. You can update it, give the client or whoever the third party is an update on where their application currently resides. And all that data is stored inside of Microsoft 365, and you can simply access it simply and easily with, for example, your own mobile Canvas or model-driven app. But all that data is stored inside of Microsoft 365. We then have logic apps. So say, for example, for mission critical, business critical automations, essentially this is Power Automate on steroids. So for those things which basically would cost you a lot of money if they stopped running, you have logic apps in place, which is essentially, I say, Power Automate on steroids to make sure that you have that level of resilience built into your automations. We have structured databases with Dataverse. So think of Dataverse a bit like SQL in the cloud. So you can build out your tables, your relationships, and all of this data that you're using as part of this process automation can be safely stored inside of your Power Platform environment. Then with all of that data that we've collected via our mobile apps, we've automated, we've collected maybe externally via Power Pages, and we've structured it inside of our Dataverse, we can then report on it using Power BI. So this is where we can create dashboards of information, graphs, charts, KPIs, all these cool things which make a business run more efficiently and allow us to make more informed business decisions. We can do that using Power BI. Once we have all of that in place, we are then ready to start considering AI layered over the top of it. So we've moved from being in the data depression, we've adopted the cloud, and we've then built in some automations already using the Power Platform. We're then ready to apply AI over the top of all of this. This brings us into the intelligent workplace phase. This is where we can expect to get more AI insights. We can get improved decision making because we can use AI to spot things that we potentially would not have spot ourselves without the use of AI. The first AI assists the employee. So the first stage of the intelligent workplace. In fact, the intelligent workplace is split out into 3 stages. And the first of that is the AI assists employee. Now, this is where we've got things like Copilot to make it more effective of how our employees are finding documents and creating documents themselves. The second phase is it works alongside the employee. Now, this might be where we have things like Copilot Studio, which comes into play. And this is essentially where we have Um, Almost semi-autonomous agents working in the background. So maybe this is interfacing directly with customers and external people, but there's still a level of it's working alongside our employees. Employees still need to come in and action certain things. And I say this is managed by a human employee. And the third stage of the intelligent workplace is to have full autonomy. Now, we do still recommend that you have employees have check-in stages. So whether there's something that needs an approval before it's actioned, and a human can do this, this is essentially where the third stage of autonomy comes in place. But essentially at this stage, we're expecting that all of these AI agents and AI that's applied over the top of our working day to day is essentially still merged as part of a ongoing team. So eventually we expect to see that real teams will be comprised of both human employees and AI agent employees. So this is where we bring us to that intelligent workplace stage. But how can we help you? So Valto can help each of these individual stages. If you're in the data depression stage, book a 1 hour free call with us. If you're watching this recorded on YouTube, there's a link in the description below to book your free 1 hour consultation. We can give you ballpark costs and estimations for each one of these different phases, which is tailored to your specific scenarios. And there's no obligation. So have a free chat with us. If you want to take this away and implement it yourself, that's totally fine. Or, as I say, we're there to help you through each of these stages. At the cloud adoption stage, we recommend having a SharePoint and Microsoft Teams workshop where we run through how you're currently managing your documents, where are they stored, and can they be structured better. We also look at security hardening. How secure is your Microsoft 365? What could AI potentially find as a fault in your security setup currently? At the process automation stage, we look at delivering Power Platform workshops where we can look at what potentially could be automated, what applications are going to benefit you and save time and ensure that you have quality data which is captured, which you can report on using Power BI. We obviously offer a full consultancy service on this, as well as bespoke builds and training. And then finally, we have our intelligent workplace. So once you have these things in place, we offer intelligent workplace workshop alongside an overarching AI strategy workshop where we can help determine how AI can then be applied to drive further insights that help with decision making and saving time and costs. If you found this video useful, you should check out this next video, which is going to show you in 10 minutes how you can build your first AI agent using Microsoft SharePoint.